As a punishment for the last two world wars, the United States of Freedom is sending the New England Patriots and the Indianapolis Colts featuring Gardner Minshew and Mac Jones to play a football game in Germany this week. It's at 9:30 a.m. I'm probably going to sleep through that one on the weekend, I'll be honest with you. But if I must give a prediction, and really I am not excited for this game, I will say that Gardner Minshew, while his play has been somewhat less than stellar recently, he's still plucky, he's still charming, he's still got that dog in him, and he is still throwing to far better weapons and behind the offensive line which is far superior to Mac Jones to the New England Patriots. Will Belichick give him troubles? Certainly. Will it be a miserable game to watch? Certainly. But I think we are going to see some good old-fashioned power-nosed football featuring Jonathan Taylor running over his opponents and carrying the Indianapolis Colts to a win in Germany, their first ever international victory.
You're telling me you're not turning on your alarm, heating up your waffle maker, getting your syrup out, waking up nice and early to watch this game? This is going to be exciting.
What type of psycho eats waffles on Sunday?
You don't?
Waffles are a Saturday food.
No one's watching this game. The Patriots stink. Bill Belichick, he's forming a dynamic tank in order to get a quarterback to replace Mac Jones. Don't twirl your finger at me. I'll speak as long as I want to speak. The Colts are winning this one. They've had big bright spots at points this season. The Patriots defense isn't slowing them down.
An original and ambitious take.
I know. Next game, Browns taking on the Ravens. And I don't even think Browns fans thought the Browns defense was going to be this good this season. They have been phenomenal. They've been propping up a horrible passing attack that has been led by Deshaun Watson, led by Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and P.J. Walker this season. Their passing offense is the fourth worst in the NFL. If they had competent quarterback play, they'd be one of the favorites to come out of the AFC, much like the Steelers with how good their defenses are. The Ravens are on the opposite side of things. They have the number one scoring defense in the NFL, they have the number one rushing attack in the NFL, and Lamar Jackson is in his MVP form. He has been balling out. There's a reason they beat them, was it 28-3, I think the first time they played. Granted, I know DTR was playing, but Deshaun Watson has not been good this season. I mean, look what it took last week just to get him a passing touchdown. Tipped up in the air, luckily falls into Amari Cooper's arms. Ravens are winning this one.
I mean, look, the Ravens have fallen apart from an injury standpoint and are still one of the best teams, if not the best team, in the NFL. They can't be slowed down. On the other sideline, you got Mr. Watson, Mr. Cosby, faking injuries, waiting until he's 112% healthy, and just sitting there and watching his team stink. Watson's not great. He's better than P.J. Walker. And I think him being in this game will give them a fighting chance. I don't think they'll win, but I think it's going to be pretty competitive. I'll give this one to Baltimore. They're the home team, but they're eventually going to drop a game in division, probably to the Browns at some point this year. But have to wait and see. On to oh, good Lord. A substantially worse football game. C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, and company going on to face the Bengals, who are red hot, on fire, blazing away. And we know how this is going to go. C.J. Stroud got beaten up by little Bryce Young and the Panthers defense, who just lost to the Chicago Bears and Bagent 0. It ain't special down there in Houston. That momentum is starting to slow down at the quarterback position. Meanwhile, prime Joe Burrow, best receiving core in the NFL, some would say. Great defense. Offensive line, we don't need to talk about that. They got the home field advantage. They got the advantage in almost every position, and they're going to win this game.
I don't know if I've ever heard anyone describe momentum slowing down at the quarterback position right after they drop 5 touchdowns and 470 passing yards.
That's the quarterback position.
Sounds
as
like
a team, their momentum is slowing down.
They just heated up.
They beat the Buccaneers by a touchdown.
That sounds like a whole lot of Ohio State quarterback copium to me. But with that being said, the Bengals have been heating up. They're getting better and better every single week. I fully expect Joe Burrow and the Bengals to win, unless for some reason Jamar Chase misses the game due to his back soreness, and I saw T. Higgins may miss time, but they should still win that one. Next, we have the 49ers taking on the Jaguars, and there have been a lot of people propping up the Jaguars this season. I, especially before the season, thought they were going to be phenomenal. I thought their offense was going to take the next step, and you have people like Nick Wright out there describing Trevor Lawrence as a top 5 quarterback with what he's done this season. They've been lauding the Jaguars' ability to win 6 games this season, coupled with the way they ended last season, and I just haven't seen it. I've been far from impressed by their offense this season. They're 14th in the NFL in passing yards. Trevor Lawrence has 1 game over 300 passing yards. As good as Travis Etienne has been, he's 1 game over 100 rushing yards. Trevor Lawrence, I feel like, thinks he's more athletic than he actually is and tries to run the ball too often and doesn't trust some of his reads when I'm watching this season, and he's playing a 49ers defense where he cannot do that. The 49ers are coming off 3 losses. I haven't been impressed with the Jaguars offense this year yet. I fully expect the 49ers to win, and I'd love to say lose because I do not like the 49ers fan base, but I think they're winning.
So after a crispy 3 L's in a row, you think the momentum shifts against a top-tier team in the AFC. That's what happens.
You think the Jaguars are top tier?
I mean, 6-2 doesn't happen by accident, and the losses are to teams which were early in the season. You, of all people, who love saying, oh, week 1 doesn't count. But hey, continue your hatred of young Trevor Lawrence. He looks better than both of us combined. He's got nice wavy hair. I see why you don't like him. I'd be bitter too. I am bitter, frankly. But the Minnesota Vikings hosting the New Orleans Saints, one of the hated rivals. One of the teams which we really don't like. Them, the Eagles, the Cowboys to a certain extent. A lot of bad blood in those games. And we're doing it with Joshua Dobbs. Joshua Dobbs. We saw how he lit it up with 4 days of practice. We saw how he performed in the clutch, how he got better as the game went along. With a full week of practice, with Darrisaw being healthy, with Justin Jefferson's presence being on the sideline in uniform, boosting everyone's morale, it's over for the Saints. That offense is dreadful, horrendous. Even if they have Chris Olave and Mike Evans healthy, they're still not as good a receiver as the Vikings. We all know Jordan Addison's the best receiver in this year's class.
I don't know,
Played
man.
better than everyone else. Maybe Rashee Rice down the line. But we know it is him, and he is him. And he is better than anyone the Saints can trot out there. They're better at tight end. They're better.
Taysom Hill's been heating up.
They're better at offensive line.
Back-to-back 20-point fantasy
Their defense
weeks.
is destructive. Who cares about fantasy football in the year of our Lord 2023? As a matter of fact, I'm playing you this week in fantasy, aren't I?
And you're going to get smoked.
For the first time, we've played each other, 8 different times in our fantasy football careers and the various leagues have been. You haven't won a single game. It's actually insane. You are 0-8 against a person sitting across from you, and you care a lot more about fantasy football than me. It's embarrassing. Just like how Josh Jobs is going to embarrass the Saints defense. Give me the Vikings over the Saints at home, pure domination.
I will not let you propagate these false narratives that you've beat me every single. We don't need to get into a fantasy football discussion, but I also agree with you on this one. Josh Jobs, full week of practice. He's going to outplay the Saints. Derek Carr, he's been consistently average to okay this season. Taysom Hill has been heating up a little bit, but I trust much more the Vikings offense, and they are hot. They've been heating up. They're going to win.
Are you man enough to put the final score in the video next week? Just drop that final score in there, even if you lose. Are you going to be willing to do that, or are you just... I'll open next week with an announcement of the final score. How about that?
Yeah, and I'll edit it out.
Okay, you do that. That video is going to disappear off the YouTube channel real quick for some reason.
Packers taking on the Steelers. The Steelers are going to win this one. I understand both offenses haven't been good this season. Steelers scoring less points than the Packers, but there's a reason the Steelers are 5-3. Their defense is absolutely elite, and they have enough talent, especially a little bit more experienced talent with Deontay Johnson now coming back off injury. I know George Pickens is the whole free mean that may be causing some turmoil in the locker room, but Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris have been a sneaky productive backfield duo. Kenny Pickett, I expect him to play better in this one against the Packers than he has in other games. I think the Steelers win.
The Packers have a good defense. Let's not downplay them there.
Not as good as the Steelers.
The only reason the Steelers are going to lose is George Pickens goes nuclear, which he could. He is somewhat of a head case. We saw the draft night video. We've seen how he run blocks. You cannot run block that well as a wide receiver without some mental health issues. I think you'll agree with me on that. Unless that happens, though, yeah, Jordan Love's going to get smoked by the Steelers defense. It could be final score 3-0 for all we care, but the Steelers will win, barring a Pickens disaster class. On to a high-octane game between the Tennessee Titans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Bucs slowing down a little bit. That defense started to get gouged. C.J. Stroud, some would say he had a good game. Nico Collins merchant, in my opinion. But they're playing the Titans. No passing attack. Will Levis had one good game and then went back to mediocrity. I'm not sold. You stop yawning over there, man, or I'm going to start drinking during the podcast. I'm not sold. That defense is still good. Baker Mayfield can put up points. The Bucs have a decent running game, and all the Titans have going for them is hope and old man Derrick Henry. Defense is fine, sure, but Buccaneers better defensively, better offensively, better coached, handsomer quarterback, stronger jawlines all over the field. Give me the Buccaneers.
So now we're hating on Will Levis. That's what we've stooped
I
to.
am taking a swarthy veteran surrounded by elite wide receivers over a rookie 3 games into his career.
Will Levis started his career off with a 4-touchdown game, had a 1-touchdown game last week, and he's going to take another step this week. The Titans are going to win this one.
Take a step last week.
Derrick Henry is going to have a productive game. DeAndre Hopkins, with Will Levis throwing him the ball, we've still seen he's still a very good NFL receiver. He can get it done. The Titans are winning. For our next game, we have the Falcons taking on the Cardinals. Not the most exciting game in the world. And at the beginning of the year, Isaiah was kind of propagating the narrative, if the Falcons are winning games, they're winning games. I think he likes Arthur Smith a bit less now and is not...
Hold on, when was I ever nice about Arthur Smith?
You talked about, if it wins games, it wins games.
Yeah, what type of logic is that? If you can win a football game without using Bijan Robinson, it's a valid strategy.
Well, it turns out you need to use Bijan Robinson if you want to win games. They need to stop the way he talks about it in his post-game pressers, saying, we had a read here, that you have to look at the context of the situation. This is why Bijan Robinson is not getting touches inside the 10-yard line, getting close to the goal line, because this is the way our offense works. At a certain point, you get your best player the ball, and they haven't been doing it because his ego is way too big. Look at what the Giants did with Saquon Barkley's rookie year. He was the all-purpose yards leader, and that's what they should have been doing with Bijan Robinson. I mean, the Chiefs, there's a reason the Chiefs have been so good. Yes, it's their system. Yes, it's their coach. Yes, it's Patrick Mahomes. But they get their best skill position players the ball consistently. Everyone knows Travis Kelce's going to get the ball. They still get him the ball, and he makes big plays. When they had Tyreek Hill, there's a reason he had 12 targets a game, because he was the best and most dynamic player on the field. That's what the Falcons need to do with Bijan Robinson. They have been doing it. And then they're playing the Cardinals, who I understand they have one win. But when you look at their last 6 games, they've played the 49ers, Browns, Bengals, Seahawks, Rams. They have played a very hard schedule. They've been sneaky competitive in all those games outside of when they started Clayton Tune at quarterback, and now they get Kyler Murray back. If the Falcons had this much trouble last week with Josh Dobbs, who had no practice with the Vikings offense, and now they have to play Kyler Murray, who is healthy, hasn't played football in 11 months, is healthier than ever, they are going to have a lot of problems. I don't know why this is the game I've talked about the most this week, but the Cardinals are winning this one, getting their second win of the season.
TikTok podcaster calls out NFL head coach for having big ego while sitting in his friend's attic.
Yes.
Well, you're ignoring the fact that in all those competitive games, the Cardinals were starting Joshua Dobbs, and I'm taking Josh Dobbs with a week and a half of prep time going into these games and a fully functional lower body over one-legged little Kyler Murray. So I'm going to say give me the Falcons. I don't think Kyler's going to have it in week 1. The new Call of Duty or Modern Warfare just came out. So I think there's going to be some film issues. Their plays are not going to be as well memorized as you'd like. Issues getting in contact with his new coach, just ignoring his phone calls so he can get that kill streak. I'm giving it to the Falcons here. Unless, of course, they were all at Heineken light again, in which case, may God have mercy on their souls, because the NFL will not. Detroit's playing the Chargers, and we thought the Chargers were going to be much better at this point in the year. The win-loss record is not where you'd like it to be. They got beaten around by bad teams. They've been dominated at points, and Detroit winning games, very competitive. Even without their leading running back, Montgomery, they're still getting it done. Now, I think he may be back this week. I'm unsure on that. If he's not, I'd probably change my prediction. But if he is, I think they're just going to grind that Chargers defense to death. Up the middle, over and over again, 4, 5, 6 yards a carry. They don't really need to be dynamic through the air. They don't need to go outside of Jahmyr Gibbs. They can just run them to death. They got a better O-line. They got better coaches. They got better players on the interior. That's all you need to beat the Chargers. The Chargers cannot keep up. Lions defense somewhat lacking, but the Chargers offense also somewhat lacking, and we know what happens with Justin Herbert in clutch situations. It is over.
I think the Lions are somewhat fraudulent. I mean, their fan base wants you to believe they're a top 5 team, and I like their offense. I like what they've done. They've turned the organization around. They're one of the best teams in the NFC. They'll be a playoff team this year. And I do not not like the Chargers. I don't like Brandon Staley. I think he's ruining Justin Herbert's chance at a playoff berth and going deep in the playoffs, especially over the last few seasons. Their offense has not been good. Quentin Johnson is a bust. Keenan Allen is the only receiver they have to throw to, especially with Josh Palmer not being available. But I do think the Chargers, in a weird way, find a way to win this one. When you look, the Lions have struggled in games against other elite quarterbacks. They don't really have an impressive win yet on their resume. I think the Chargers win.
Let me ask you something. Was Chris Carter a bust?
No.
Was Roddy White a bust?
You're talking Chris Carter like the Vikings.
I'm talking the Chris Carter, yes.
Okay.
Was he a bust?
No.
Was Roddy White a bust?
No.
Why is Quentin Johnson a bust 9 games into his career?
Because he just looks bad.
And those guys didn't? Those guys who couldn't crack 500 receiving yards as rookies and pass-happy offenses didn't? That one of those guys got kicked off the team due to character issues. Was he a bust? No, the talent is there. He's getting open, and you are just a hater to the core. This is, oh, I'm right for once about a wide receiver take going into the draft. Sure, I was pushing Zay Flowers over Jordan Addison narrative as like a goddamn clown, but hey, I was right about this one. Quentin Johnson wasn't that good.
I know receivers better than you. It is
clearly. That's why you think the Giants have good receivers.
Speaking of the Giants.
Nice try, Bozo. I'm talking here, pal.
No, I'm the next game.
I'm talking.
I'm the next game. You just
The Giants are facing off against the Dallas Cowboys. I have taken this game from Tristan. I'm assuming the means of production because he's going to agree with me. All I'm going to say is this. We ain't watching this. We as a collective people are overjoyed this game got flexed out of primetime. This game getting flexed out of primetime is the best thing to happen to NFL fans all year. Tell us why that is, Tristan.
Well, I don't really have an opinion on it being prime time or not, but you've probably seen my TikTok on it already. Brian Daboll is sacrificing Tommy DeVito to the football gods in order to save his career, whether that be via Drake May or Caleb Williams. Either of those is going to give Brian Daboll the flexibility to move the ball around. And the Giants, you talked about the Giants, they stink, they're bad, they're this. They have some of the best separation in the NFL among wide receiver groups. It's just unfortunate that the quarterback that they have back there never throws it to the right wide receiver. The statistics don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
You have found one stat which proves that the wide receivers of the New York Giants are even above average, and you are holding on to that like it's a life preserver in a choppy sea of reality. I'm sorry you can't handle the truth. I'm sorry you want to believe a rookie quarterback, regardless if it's May, Penix, Williams, whoever that is, I'm sorry you want to believe that they're going to succeed in New York next year. You will doom Caleb Williams' career, a prospect you love, if your team drafts him. You will ruin him. You will ruin Drake May. You will ruin, Bo Nix is already kind of ruined. He's 42. You will ruin Penix. You will ruin Quentin Johnson. Quinn Ewers. You will ruin any quarterback you draft in that Giants organization. No chance to succeed. No weapons. No blocking. No hope. Fire Daboll. Blow it up. Trade everybody.
This year is not the Giants' year, but Brian Daboll will be back next year after sacrificing DeVito. He will have his rookie quarterback, and they will win games. They're going to be back next season. They won't win another game this season, more than likely, but they'll be back next year.
If we are still doing this podcast next year, I want this take cut out. I want it playing on a TV screen in the background of every single week reaction where you just watch the Giants lose and lose and lose, and you slowly get lower and lower and lower in your chair as the season goes on, talking about, oh, well, Daniel Jones actually might stand. He should probably come in and play this season just to give the guy time on the bed. Nah, man, it's over. The franchise is cooked. You've won your Super Bowls. You have traded your souls for those upsets over Brady and the Patriots. I really hope it was worth it.
You make me sad.
Oh no. Washington Commanders, Seattle Seahawks, a game which will make all of us sad. Commanders have been very disappointing for what I thought they'd be. I think they can be a playoff team in the absolute best case scenario. They haven't been that. They were sellers at the deadline. They've got draft capital back. And now they're just playing for pride, playing to develop Sam Howell. Thankfully, for Eric Bieniemy and the Commanders' sake, I don't think he's getting a head coaching job next season because of how much his offense has strolled in recent weeks, unless, of course, he usurps Ron Rivera. But I digress. Seahawks, fine team. Offensive and defensive lines aren't great. The receivers are obviously talented. The weapons there. Geno Smith, better than Sam Howell this season at least, unless you want to talk about raw yardage production. I'm taking the Seahawks. Not a controversial opinion. Commanders are tanking a little bit, just a twinge of tank.
Well, I need to stick up for Sam Howell a little bit. I do believe he's second in the NFL in passing yards, and his really just major mistakes, at least from what we can tell. I mean, if it continues next season, then we might have a problem, but he just makes really bad reads at times. But he has shown off the arm talent. He does wait too long and take way too many sacks, but there's a lot of potential there. And this is the week I think Geno Smith and that Seahawks offense takes the next step against the Commanders defense that shipped off everyone. So I expect the Seahawks to win this game.
Jonathan Allen.
Besides
As a punishment
Jonathan Allen.
for that little press hot take, they held on to Jonathan Allen.
And is this our last game, or do you have another one after
I got
me?
one more. I got the Monday night game.
So we got the Jets taking on the Raiders, an absolutely electric game. The Jets, 2 bad weeks in a row. They won what people have been calling one of the worst games in NFL history against the Giants, where there was about 30 punts in totality. And last week, their offense failed to have any production against a really bad Chargers defense. And then you have the Raiders, who maybe they're getting hot now. They got Josh McDaniels out of the building. Antonio Pierce elevated to the head coaching position. The offense scored the most points that they've scored all year long, put up 30 points on the Giants. Granted, I know it's the Giants. Still a good sign for them. They have the best quarterback on the roster now finally starting. Aiden O'Connell's better than Jimmy G. He's certainly better than Brian Hoyer. With getting a win last week, Antonio Pierce in the building, offense looking better, having way more offensive talent than the Jets, the Raiders are going to win.
You know, all the great NFL games have nicknames, the Fog Bowl, the Ice Bowl, stuff like that. I'm going to give this game a nickname. I'm calling it the warm glass of milk, because it's going to send me to bed early on Sunday nights. I ain't watching this crap show, man. Oh, they got an interim coach and they're hot. Oh, the Jets got good defense. Take your nerves and peddle them somewhere else. We are not Zach Wilson or Aiden O'Connell's stands here. We will not be subjecting ourselves to this football. I'm watching NBA games or I'm going to bed. Finally.
Notice he doesn't watch much football.
Finally, we've got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Denver Broncos. And you know, the Bills have a special way of losing these games. They're talented in that regard. Prime time against a team they really should beat up on, they will play right down to their competition. I don't think they can go all the way down there, though. Denver stinks. Their offense stinks. Their defense stinks. Russell Wilson, what's he cooking? Who knows? Hibachi with sushi, man. And Allen's still the guy, still QB 3 or 4 on the absolute worst days. Still him, still got a functional defense, still got a decent interior offensive line. O'Cyrus Torrence has been very good as a rookie guard. I know you haven't been watching much O'Cyrus Torrence film.
What?
Yeah, see? He doesn't even know who O'Cyrus Torrence is.
O'Cyrus Torrence, the guard they drafted. I know who he is.
Oh yeah, how much does he weigh?
320 pounds.
Incorrect. Again. Goodness.
How much does he weigh?
335.
Oh, 350 pounds, 335.
Tristan, you wish you weighed 335.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Because then I wouldn't be
Because then
able
you
to...
could push some real weight.
Okay.
You know, that's the next YouTube series. Thicc goes to the gym and yells at each other while maxing out on bench press. Tristan's going to make one good point about the Vikings defensive line. I'm just going to hold that weight down there. Come on, Tristan. Get that 315 up, big fella.
The Bills are losing that game. They have been floundering. The offense has not looked great. As you know, as good as they've been statistically, they still find a way to lose games. Their rushing attack, even with Josh Allen at quarterback, James Cook has looked solid. They've once again gotten away from that. They're not running the ball at a high level. Josh Allen still making critical mistakes. And then defense, they've had so many injuries, it has been hard for them to be productive. I think the Bills take another loss, and I think they're the most likely team that made the playoffs last season to miss the playoffs in the AFC this year.
Gotta put the AFC in there to preclude the Giants.
Oh, well, I mean, the Giants, we could talk about the end. That's a given.
I'm pretty sure I'll go back. I'll refresh my memory. There are a few teams that were in the playoffs last year for our good pals, the AFC, who will not be making a return trip. You really think the Chargers are catching up on the Bills?
I think they'll be one win away after this week.
Hateful little man. I wish I was Josh Allen, too. I wish I was from Wyoming.
Yeah, you do have a bit of a fanboy with him.
A fanboy? What's that supposed to mean?
What do you mean?
I have a fanboy with Josh Allen. Let's break down
fanboy.
There you go. This has not been a productive podcast. We've annoyed each other.